We are in Mantova, UNESCO World Heritage Site. Mantova is a proof of an exceptional urban realization, architecturally and artistically, with its works of art from the Renaissance. Alessandro Colombo, journalist and editor. Riccardo Braglia, writer, journalist, honorary authority for artistic and historic heritage of the city of Mantua. Micaela Rossi, representative for the Palazzo TE Foundation, will take us on a journey around the city considered to be a chest full of artistic treasures, filled with works by important names such as Mantegna, Pisanello and Giulio Romano.
Good morning Europa from Bella Italia TV. We are in Mantova. Mantova is one of the best towns of Lombardia, and we would like to introduce our special guest, Riccardo Braglia. Good morning, Riccardo.
Good
Welcome
morning,
to
Marino.
us. And with Riccardo, we would like to talk about Rigoletto House. Please, Riccardo, can you explain what does it mean, Rigoletto House, and the history of this special things?
Of course. So, Rigoletto House is a fake. As a matter of fact, this house belonged to the Cathedral of Mantua, St. Peter, and also today is the home of an important member of the Curia of Mantua, Monsignor Brunelli. But all the story of Rigoletto is a fake, because in the reality, Giuseppe Verdi decided to transform in an opera a famous novel by Victor Hugo. The title was Le Roi s'amuse, the king is amazing himself, and was the story of Francisco I of France and his adventures with the ladies of the court, and in particular with the daughter of his favorite joker called Blanche. But there was a big problem with the Austrian government, because during that period Mantua belonged to the Austrian Empire, and they decided it was absolutely impossible to propose an opera in which a consecrated king was defined, a humanizer, Don Giovanni, and so on. And so the poor Verdi, only 1 month before the premiere, had to change completely the story, and the Roi of France became the Duke of Mantua. Triboulet Rigoletto and Blanche Gilda. This is the real history of the opera. So it's absolutely like in Verona, the story of Giulietta and Romeo and Juliet. nothing of true, of course.
With Bella Italia TV, we are exploring all Italian town. So we have been in Verona, and we explain to everybody the history of Giulietta and Romeo. We would like to ask to Riccardo, how is the competition between Giulietta and Romeo and Rigoletto?
Well, the competition is nothing, because Rigoletto is a figure known by people that loves opera and finished. On the contrary, Romeo and Juliet, everybody also in South Australia or in the island of Fiji, everybody knows the story, and so I think that the winner is Verona. Good evening to everybody. My name is Riccardo Braglia. I am basically an art historian, and I have studied in Italy, of course, that is the fatherland of art, but also in Great Britain. I am also a journalist. I am a writer. I have published many books about the history of Mantua and the art in Italy. And I am, this is the last one thing, also a director, but not for film, not for theater, but only for opera. My last creation was an edition of Rigoletto by Giuseppe Verdi, created for the main theater of my town, that is Mantua.
We are walking around Mantova, and now we are going to explore Palazzo TE. Palazzo TE is a masterpiece of Mantova, designed by Giulio Romano. We are here with Micaela Rossi. It's a pleasure to see you and to learn you about this building, this museum. Can you tell us, Micaela, something about this masterpiece of Mantova?
Yes, Palazzo TE was built by Giulio Romano and commissioned by Federico II Gonzaga, that was the Duke of Mantova, in 1535. Palazzo TE was a villa made for the leisure time of the Duke and the Gonzaga family, and that's why it was built a bit out of the city. Gonzaga family was living in Palazzo Ducale in the city center, and here in Palazzo TE they are used to make parties and dinners for their guests in Mantova. Giulio Romano designed the Palazzo TE and also all the architecture and the frescoes of Palazzo TE between 1525 and 1535, and the whole palace is designed and decorated by the master Giulio Romano, that came from the school of Raffaello Sanzio from Rome. So Federico Gonzaga called Giulio Romano from Rome to work in Mantova.
Micaela, what does it mean, leisure, in 1525, 1535 for Federico Gonzaga?
Federico Gonzaga was a great duke, and he was an estimator of art and leisure time, like feast or parties. He invited also the emperor here in Mantova and made a great dinner in Palazzo TE for the emperor. So that was the main use of Palazzo TE, because it was not a house, a normal palace, but it was a palace that room by room hosts guests and want to give a sense of wonder and beautifulness for all the people that came in Palazzo TE.
What we are going to see now walking around the Palazzo TE?
Palazzo TE has some rooms very beautiful and famous all over Italy and Europe, like the Room of Horses that have some portraits of the real horses by Federico Gonzaga, or the Room of Giants that is all decorated from the floor to the ceiling with fresco of Giulio Romano.
Talking about the future, your museum, in which way will change the approach to the visitors? So I mean, are you going to propose virtual reality visit also for coming from this museum?
Yes, we made an application for mobile with which people can just download on his mobile phone and go around Palazzo TE having a visit guided by our curators in Italian and in English. And we have also augmented reality and virtual reality path in the museum. And last year we start to digitalize some rooms, like Room of Horses and the Giants room, because we want to face this time of digitalization and innovation also for arts and culture.
So we would like to invite everybody to take this app, to download this app, but mainly we would like to invite everybody to come here and to live the magic moment inside this Palazzo TE. Thank you, Micaela.
Thank you very much.
And keep in touch, and we are going to see the other room.
Sure.
In the sumptuous ducal apartment of Palazzo TE. This fabulous palace was built by Giulio Romano, the favorite pupil of Raphael, and was built for Frederick II, Duke of Mantua. The period is between 1530 and 1539, or according to another tradition, 1525, 1535. Nonetheless, the apartment, the palace, is considered really a masterpiece of the Manneristic period. Mannerism is the late Renaissance period of European art. This room was originally the antechamber of the apartment, as is called room, or better, hall of the horses, because, as you can see, on the walls are painted 6 beautiful thoroughbreds that were real animals. They are not the fruit of Giulio Romano's fantasy. They were the 6 favorite horses of Duke Frederick II, fantastic exemplar of the famous breed that was typical of the House of Gonzaga and well known everywhere in Europe. The second hall of the apartment is this one, the so-called Psyche's room or Psyche's hall. Originally was the banqueting hall of the apartment. The name Psyche derives from the frescoes that you can admire on the ceiling and on these 2 walls. These frescoes, as a matter of fact, tell us the legend, the story, the tale maybe is better, of Psyche, that was a beautiful Greek princess loved by Cupid, the god of love and the son of Venus, goddess of beauty and love, of course. It's a very complicated story because Venus was terribly jealous of Psyche, but after many problems and disaster and so on, the couple was able to marry, and Zeus, or Jupiter, as you like it, the king of the gods, created Psyche like a new goddess of the Olympus. The scene, the double scene on the two walls, is the wedding or nuptial, as you like it, banquet, where all the ancient divinities are invited. They are really easily recognizable from their attribute. For example, Apollo, the god of sun and the music, Bacchus, the god of wine, the nymph of the waters, and here the goddess Venus herself that is preparing the sumptuous table for the wedding. And now the top, because this is the most famous hall of the palace and unique or unicum in Latin, because nobody was similar to this room in the past, and nobody will be similar to this room in the future. It's the great masterpiece of Giulio Romano, the so-called Hall of the Giants. As a matter of fact, the frescoes of the Roman painter tell us a famous pagan story, pagan legend, the revolution organized by the giants that you can see on the walls. They are horrible, stupid, with grotesque faces and so on. And they organized a revolution against Jupiter, the god, the king, of the gods that you can see on the top of the cupola of the dome. But, as you can see, Jupiter, with the lightning, struck the giants, collapsing then in this cosmical catastrophe till reaching the Tartarus, that was the hell of the pagan religion. So this is the story wrote, if you want, with his color by Giulio Romano in this hall.
Walking together with Riccardo Braglia, and Riccardo Braglia will tell us something about Mantova, because Mantova is not just a little town, but it was also a capital. So what does it mean, capital, for this town?
The first thing to tell, is that Mantua is really ancient, because Mantua was an Etruscan town. So she's elder than Rome. And the period of glory, as a matter of fact, was the period of the house of the dynasty of Gonzaga. During this period, about 4 centuries, Mantua was the capital of a small state, indeed, but very famous all over in Europe for the splendor and the elegance of the court, and for the patronage of the member of the family, with very important artists like Tiziano, della Mantegna. Also Leonardo was for a brief period here in Mantua at the court of the Gonzaga, and so on. Rubens 8 years. He lived in Mantua 8 years, so was the most important painter of the first part, the first period of the Baroque age, and so on. So really fantastic palace.
So Riccardo is very miscellaneous between history and art, this town.
Absolutely, because all the members of the family were dominated by the passion for art.
Now with Riccardo Braglia we are going inside the Palazzo Ducale.
Yes.
So we would like to discover Palazzo Ducale together.
With pleasure. Is a huge complex, about 35 also thousand square meters, and 500 about of rooms, 7 gardens, 8 quarters, the private church of the Gonzaga family, the private theater of the Gonzaga family. Really enormous, like the Forbidden City if you want in Peking.
So let's go to discover Palazzo Ducale.
With pleasure.
Riccardo, wonderful room. We are in the wedding room, but I don't know if in English the right name is wedding room.
Yes,
of
the translation
Mantegna.
of Camera degli Sposi, of course, is wedding room, but is not correct. The real name of the room during the 15th century, that is the period in which Andrea Mantegna decorated it, was a Latin name, Camera Picta, that means the most beautiful frescoed room existing in the world. This is the correct name, and Mantegna created this decoration for celebrating the glories of the Gonzaga family. In particular, in the background, there is the figure of Marquis Lodovico II seated on his throne, and around him numerous members of his family, beginning with the Marchioness Barbara of Brandenburg, so a German princess, because Brandenburg is Prussia, as a matter of fact. She's not very sexy, is a sort of member of the Adams family, but she was very clever, intelligent, with a fantastic taste, and so on, so a good match for the time. And the other young people are children of marginal family. And in particular, it's very funny, the young boy with the crimson hat, Ludovicino was. He was only 8 years old and already reached the rights of the Catholic Church of the period.
But Riccardo, let us know something about Andrea Mantegna. Andrea Mantegna was coming from Padova, and after he has a very successful in Mantua.
Sì. Andrea Mantegna arrived in Mantua in 1460, and he remained in the Gonzaga town till his death in 1506, dominating completely the artistical scene of the town.
Thank you. Now we are moving to another room.
With pleasure.
So Riccardo, we are walking
Yeah.
on the Galleria of Exhibition,
Yes.
on the first floor of a new area of
Sì.
Palazzo Ducale.
See, the so-called Corte Nuova, the new court.
New court.
Because the palace is divided into sections. The old court that was started in the 13th century, and this part is the new court. Work started about 1530, 1532.
And what can we explain to us about this special
This
place?
is fantastic. Was built by Vincenzo I Gonzaga, the same Duke of Rigoletto, as a matter of fact, and it's called the Gallery of the Exhibition because the purpose was to show the most important treasures of the famous Gonzaga's collection of art. And you can understand easily this fact looking at this wall that is divided in 3 orders of niches.
All of these are Gonzaga.
No. These are Roman statues representing emperor and empresses. They are ancient. It is not the original place of these statues. They were in another part of the palace originally. No, here in the first row of niches there were cupboards filled with the most unbelievable object of the Gonzaga collection of semi-precious stones. You have to imagine service for example, for the table, made in massive lapis lazuli, decorated with gold, pearl, diamonds, emeralds, rubies. The second row are frames for canvases. And for example, the most famous canvases exposed here was the Death of the Virgin by Caravaggio, that originally belonged to the Gonzaga family. And the third row is the unique, the only one that preserve also today the original destination. So they are niches, like a shell, oval shell if you want, for the exposition of Roman busts.
So it's so nice, very wonderful. And next step, where we are going to?
To a particular apartment for having just an idea of a typical collection of the Renaissance and Baroque age, the Wunderkammers, so the room of the beautiful things. Very particular collection that we can explain in a few minutes.
So we will see later.
Yeah.
Riccardo, Joseph Furtenberg, a German traveler, wrote that in this gallery display the hippopotamus. What does it mean?
No, nothing. So this gallery was, as a matter of fact, a naturalistic museum, but according to the ideas and the mentality of the period. So the object, the animals and so on were chosen not for the importance in the natural history, but only when they were strange, bizarre, never seen in Europe and so on. And so the hippopotamus, of course, was one of these monsters, this wonder of the nature. But there was another object, terrific, in this gallery, was the mummified body of Passerino Buonaccorsi. The Buonaccorsi were the first lords of Mantua between the second half of the 13th century and the beginning of the 14th century. And Passerino was killed by Luigi Gonzaga, the first Gonzaga to reign over Mantua. And they preserved the mummified body of Passerino because, according to a legend, of course, this was a guarantee for the dynasty without the mummy, they believe that the dynasty ended up.
So that means that this hippopotamus is the original asset of Gonzaga.
Well, it's not the original one because the gallery was completely destroyed during the century, but it's very similar to the original one, yes.
Thank you, Riccardo. Let's move to another place. It seems to be in Versailles, but we are still in Mantua. In Mantua, we are in the very nice gallery, the Mirrors Gallery. Riccardo, can you explain to us something about this gallery of mirrors?
Yes, but as a matter of fact, it's a last realization and not ordered by the Gonzaga family, because we are in the second half of the 18th century, at the beginning of the neoclassical style, when the Gonzaga lost completely the lordship of Mantua. On the contrary, was the Emperor Joseph II, the brother of the poor Marie Antoinette, decapitated during the French Revolution. So it was Joseph II that ordered the realization of this sumptuous, elegant decoration that is a sort of imitation, empire style imitation of the famous Galerie de Glace at Versailles.
But we are in Mantua,
Absolutely.
and Mantua maybe is better than Versailles for some point of view.
Why not?
Why not? Thank you, Riccardo. We are going to another place now. So, Riccardo, we are moving on the Palazzo Ducale outdoor, and we are on the special garden, hanging garden. Can you explain to us the particularity of this garden?
Yes, this is fantastic. I adore it. Also because it is unique in the world. It is the only real hanging garden existing in the world. And as a matter of fact, there is a difference of 11 meters from the level of the garden and the level of the ground floor. It was built by order of the Duke William I of Mantua, that desired to have in his palace one of the famous 7 wonders of the ancient times, and in particular this was a reproduction, smaller reproduction of course, of the famous Hellenic gardens of Babylonia.
In Babylonia?
Yeah.
Thank you, Riccardo. Now we are moving to the last place. Riccardo, behind ourselves there is one of the best tapestries in the world. Can you explain to us the details of this tapestry?
Yes. The Ducal Palace of Mantua possesses this unbelievable collection of 9 tapestries designed by Raffaello and woven in Bruxelles. Amidst the 9 pieces, this one, the Miraculous Fishing, is considered the most beautiful Renaissance tapestry existing in the world. And this in particular for the play of reflection of the figures of Jesus Christ and the apostles in the water of the Lake of Tiberias that you can admire and really shocking. On the contrary, the most famous medieval tapestries is in Paris. Hotel de Cluny is very famous also. This one, La Dame à la Licorne.
But this one is the most important.
For the Renaissance, for the medieval, da me la ricordo.
Thank you, Riccardo. Now we would like to show the tapestry directly to our on our television.
Yes.
Let's go ahead in this way.